Well, that's a good transition to kind of look at that. So we are, again, I mean, we're past the 60-day point to get a judge's ruling on. And again, remember, this was a motion to dismiss hearing. This wasn't like, the overall hearing to get a judgment. That's one thing to remember. So we're probably going to be getting the judge's decision on whether this thing is going to be dismissed in its entirety based on jurisdiction and other factors, whether just part of it is or whether none of it is, and it's going to move on. We should be getting it in a matter of days. I'd honestly be shocked if we didn't get it by the end of next week. We're certainly going to get it by the end of January. And I've seen this discussion the last few days, and I feel pretty strongly about one side. So I'll ask you before I share my opinion. But people have been speculating on Twitter what the fact that it's been this long to get a decision, whether that is a good or a bad thing or doesn't matter at all. Nuclear Herbs obviously has weighed in here and there, but I'm just seeing some people go back and forth on that. What do you make of it, Ewok? I mean, the fact that we're, on our way to about 75 days since this thing, October 31st was the date. Do you think it's good or a bad omen that Judge Carroll is taking this long on a decision?
I think it's a good thing. I think it might have been Nuclear Herbs that had said it originally, but when a judge finds reason to dismiss or even partially dismiss, it has to be well written up. There has to be reasons. There has to be eloquent thought put into it, especially against the SEC, right? The case that other than her saying the case you brought to me is shit and has no merit. She's got to put that in decent terms. I'm sure she had some vacation time for the holidays as well. You got to figure there's let's say 2 weeks. So out of the 75 days, 14 of those probably don't count. But again, I see it as positive only because, like I said, there has to be some thought put into this. I do see at least a partial dismissal. I think the whole hex thing gets thrown out. If anything, they may go into the misappropriation of funds. I don't think we get full dismissal. I think they're going to try and get something out of it, unless the judgment doesn't come until the changing of the guards at the SEC, and someone above that decides to essentially put a hold on all crypto cases. At that time, it would be one of them, right? I think it would kind of just go away. So maybe they're waiting for that. Like, I don't know that a judge would purposefully delay a decision waiting for a changing of the guards type thing.
Yeah, I don't think so.
If it starts to happen, so then that raises the next question. What happens if this case doesn't get fully dismissed, the case gets started, and at that point, after whatever, they decide to put a hold on all cases? Would that include the active ones too, or just the ones that haven't really got started yet? That's a question that I would love to know the answer to, because that's important, right? I mean, you're hiring these lawyers to do something, and most lawyers aren't going to take something that they don't have faith in winning. So what happens at that point? That's where I kind of am right now. But I don't see this as a bad thing. I don't see it taking this long as a bad thing at all, only because it does take more time to put out a decision that has thoughtfulness behind it. So
I agree 100%. Yeah, I think that her taking on the longer side for this only bodes better potentially for us, because it's a motion to dismiss hearing. It's not a final judgment hearing. So that means, and again, Nuclear Herbs has talked about before, in most cases in general, civil cases, 10% or so actually do even get dismissed. So for now, this one, he said he thinks has a way, way better shot. But for this one to take this long means that she's actually probably mulling it over pretty seriously. And again, like you said, I do think the most probable outcome is that that part of it is dismissed, which is, not a loss. I mean, that's gigantic. That's really big and shows what direction she's kind of thinking in. And that she's really paying attention to all this, which, I mean, she showed at the hearing, obviously.
Right.
So yeah, I think that part of it will get dismissed and that we'll move on from there. And I think that, again, yeah, the reason for her taking so long is because that's what she's doing. I do not think the changing of the guard really is having any effect with it. But what I think will happen going forward is we'll probably just get, not that it hasn't already been like this from the SEC, but especially with Gensler gone, the wind being out of their sails in terms of just trying to corruptly, ruin a bunch of cryptocurrencies and stuff. It'll just be even more of a limp dick shitty effort from them to show up and say things. I mean, it already is terrible, but I think it'll just be even worse basically by the time we get into this year. So yeah, I'm feeling really good about it overall. I think it's imminent essentially as far as a decision. Had another point about this for you too.
Yeah, and as far as time frame goes, I mean, I wouldn't even mind waiting until that happens. I wouldn't be upset if we don't get a decision after the inauguration happens, after the new people take place. I think that would be beneficial to everybody as well.